Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're doing a special look back at Batman Arkham City. Jordan, that's Arkham City. And by the way, that is Jordan. I'm joined by...
Hello, how are you?
Feeling very Arkham today. How about you?
So you feel like you're a member of an ancient Gotham family?
You might say that. You might say I'm a member of the Wayne family. No, absolutely not.
Are you part of the Court of Owls, Dom?
I wouldn't mind having that house to live in, though.
That is
somewhat
true.
of a cave underneath, I've heard.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get back on topic here. So, like I said, we're going to do a pretty in-depth look back at what is many consider to be one of the best superhero games ever made.
Ooh, that is,
Pretty high praise.
Definitely one of the best.
And I knew you'd have some objection to that.
Well, no, I'm saying it's up there. I'm saying for sure.
So, Arkham City was released in 2011. Where did we go here? 2011 for PS3, Xbox 360, and eventually I think this even got a Wii U port.
Yeah, it was on PC too.
And PC, of course. Yep. Like I said, came out to pretty high critical praise.
Oh yeah.
A 96 overall for PlayStation 3 on Metacritic, 94 for Xbox 360. I'm not sure the reasoning for the differences there.
Well, I think during that generation, you definitely had enough issues between ports, especially at the beginning with PS3 just getting shat upon and Skyrim and all that. I think this game wasn't really in that realm. I think it was pretty much the same on both consoles, though.
Yeah. So overall, though, looked back really highly upon. Some reviewers even gave it a 10 out of 10. Mostly up, in the 8s and 9s. This is, like I said, this is a great superhero game.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You might find yourself wondering right now, well, why are you talking about Arkham City and not Arkham Asylum, which really, kicked that series off. And while it did, Arkham Asylum did introduce, a lot of what's great about Arkham City, but Arkham City, in my and many others' opinions, just kind of took it to the next level.
Absolutely.
It really gave you a sense of freedom to completely go around Gotham City without...
Well, it's a sectioned off part where it's like old Gotham, where they're basically having this police state, right? Because of the... they've... I don't know the exact point that makes them do this, but essentially they wall off this area of old Gotham and have these... criminals just roaming the streets, and it's like a prison camp almost.
It's pretty close to Dark Knight Rises, the movie. Where at some point during that film, they kind of just all these bridges get collapsed and
they take over.
Exactly. Then you might call it anarchy inside that part of Gotham. So it's
Absolutely.
It's like this, where the game gives you a whole big area, not the entire Gotham City, as you point out, but a whole huge open world to completely at your own will fly around in, right?
Sure.
And let's jump right into some of the factors that make this game so good. Off of that is obviously the gameplay, but because of that freedom it gives you, the ability to use that grappling hook to go building to building and swing around.
Yeah.
And then of course glide.
The feeling of being Batman, which you did get in Asylum, that's not something new to the series in this game, but nonetheless, it's just so great. And you talk about it being one of the best superhero games. It's like, I mean, when people say that about this game, they really mean it, because we've had so many shitty licensed games in the past, and we've just had so many superhero games. When I say license, I'm usually talking about superhero movie licensed games, but even the ones before that just weren't ones that were just really based off of the characters or certain comics, weren't really living up to it. So just being the Batman, which Be the Batman was the tagline for Arkham Knight, the third game, and you totally feel that,
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it, is that you do feel like you are Batman, as much so as you possibly could anyway.
Right.
But yeah, again, the way you traverse around the city, it's something to behold. It's hard to describe, but you grapple up and then sling yourself forward, and then just continue to glide. It's just there's something to it. And then of course jumping into the combat, which again, this was something that Arkham Asylum also did, basically the same. I'm not sure how much was new. as far as the combat, but it's that real time, punching and countering. It's not overly complicated, which I personally felt was something like that's what I like about it, right? It's that Assassin's Creed style of, mostly you're pushing a few buttons, right, and just countering guys.
Really, you're pushing like 2 buttons. That's, 3, I guess, because you have block, counter, and hit. Or I guess you have 2 hits, right? You have heavy hit. Do you have heavy hit and light hit? No, I think it's just one. I think it's just one. So
maybe it is
either way, this is what I wanted to talk about. I'm really actually not into the Arkham system of combat, and much less the fact that it's even leaked into other games. We saw that with Mad Max. We see that with Shadow of Mordor. It's actually, I think, earlier Assassin's Creed games were better at combat, and then they decided to make them more like Arkham, and now they're just almost jokingly winnable. It's not even really, after you get a couple upgrades in the Assassin's Creed games of late, it's just easy. And so I think that's another issue with Arkham, the Arkham series, is that the combat is so simplistic that there's just not much you can do with it outside of just those 3 buttons and protecting yourself. It sucks that Batman, being the nuanced character that he is, doesn't get a few more tools at his disposal.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You could essentially just spam that counter button over and over and win every fight.
Exactly.
If you take a couple hits, eventually you die, but there's really not much to the combat complexity-wise. But I was all right with that. That was something I liked about it. It was, you could kind of lay back, and it is still satisfying, although it is easy. That final takedown, after you lay a beat down on a whole group of
the slow-mo
thugs,
where you're just cracking skulls, especially if you have your bat vision on or whatever, and you can see their skeleton being just thrown to the ground.
Yep. So that's super satisfying. And I'll give it some credit, though. There were a couple of different enemy types that that would wander upon you, and you'd have to, they require, you got to push circle twice and then jump over them, kind of stuff.
That's a little credit, I guess.
Yeah, it's still pretty simple. There's not too much you have to learn in the way of combat.
But there's other combat besides that. It's not, that's the fighting combat, but then you're going into detective vision is the word I meant to use earlier, and you're jumping around these rooms and being stealthy and taking guys out, and trying to take them out one by one. And boy, you still do that even in Arkham Knight, and it's so much fun doing that.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a Batman game, without that proper stealth combat. And it, while it's trying to hold that suspension of disbelief, it still feels so good. It feels so real. Grappling from gargoyle to gargoyle above the room, dropping smoke bombs and confusing guys, climbing through vents and the floor vents and everything like that. It all feels so good.
Slick,
it's even
too,
more
man.
Satisfying, extremely slick, and it's even more satisfying when there are many points where they do give your enemies,
jammers,
machine guns.
Jammers too. They give them different stuff to keep you from being too overpowered.
Yep, but they do give them guns at several points to force you into using those stealth elements, which I think that's really cool.
And they can even shoot down concrete perches that you would be able to stand on, stuff like that. Yep. So modifying the environment.
So when it comes to the stealth elements, the AI is much better, and I think that's what. Without that, that kind of repetitive combat that we talked about earlier is very well supplemented by that stealth.
Yes.
That stealth aspect. So that all feels fantastic, and I don't know that it could be done better, because that's what Asylum did and City did, Origins. And like you said, other games are even adopting that as of late. So it's a really popular thing. Because it's just simply it's fun. It's hard to describe really any more than that. But everything about the gameplay, again, we'll say it one more time, it makes you feel like Batman.
So we haven't talked about probably my favorite part of Arkham City, which is the story. Now, are we doing spoilers here, Dom?
Yeah, let's do it. This is a game, like we said, from 2011.
Yeah.
If you haven't played it, and you are even slightly interested in Batman or superheroes or action games at all, this is an absolute must-play.
Now, I would recommend the best version to play is still the PC version. I wouldn't recommend the remasters Return to Arkham on PS4 and Xbox One because basically the color palette was changed quite a bit, and the original artist design, the way that Rocksteady originally did it, it's just totally changed, and I really personally am not feeling that. So PC, I think, is the way to go. But then, of course, there's 360 and PS3 as well.
Yep. So yeah, let's do it. Let's jump into the story because that is another awesome part about this game.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
The cool thing about Batman stories in general is that every different medium, every different instance of a Batman story being told, they kind of get to do it in their own vacuum and put their own spin on it, right? So
yeah,
the
but
Nolan
these are all not self-contained, but the Arkham series has its own storyline going.
Right. Yep. All these games are, they're their own. I guess not trilogy, but yeah, their own sequence.
Their own universe, really.
Story.
They have comics and they have all different kinds of stuff. So.
Yeah. So again, the Nolan movies, for example, are what Batman would be at its most grounded form, right?
Sure.
And then the animated series is just that, an animated series, right? So it's a little less grounded. Kind of leans on that aspect of it a little more. The Arkham games, I think, are kind of somewhere in between. Probably they lean closer to the comic book side of this, less grounded.
Still
really creepy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll let you jump off of that.
So, well, real quick, I want to say you were talking about Nolan's movies being the most grounded form. Are you saying that Batman vs. Superman, Batfleck, isn't grounded when he's blowing guys up and flipping 18-wheelers and just destroying shit like he's not even worried about anything at all? You're saying that's not grounded, dog? What?
You bring up a good point, but yeah, I meant more in the sense of it's still within the realm of reality, I think.
No, I'm saying those. I'm making fun of that. I mean, I actually think
you're
that
right.
Ben Affleck was a great Bruce Wayne and Batman, but I think it was goofy how he just had like zero regard. I mean, yeah, he was killing criminals, and you could say that could be interesting for Batman, but the fact that he's, he's like destroying public property, and I'm like, this is not grounded in the sense that Nolan's trilogy was
just one of the issues with that.
Okay, yeah.
But anyway.
Probably shouldn't go down that rabbit hole. That's my bad. But, yeah, you said, I'll jump off this diving board that is Arkham City's story. It's really fucking cool. It is, like we mentioned at the beginning, they have this walled-off area of Old Gotham, and you're going through, and you're... basically what happens is people get split off into these factions, right? They either you got to go with one of the big guys or you're going to get screwed, right? And they go more into this in the comics, which is really cool. But basically what's happening, actually there's a small tangent, very cool comic story about how Bruce Wayne uses his undercover disguise as Matches Malone and goes in as a regular criminal before he goes in as Batman, and he's trying to like get in on the different gangs, right? And he's trying to play the different gangs off of each other. So you have like the Joker gang, and you have the Two-Face gang, and you got the Penguin gang, just like you do outside the walls, but now they're like fully like really integrated into these people's factions, and they're really almost they don't worship their leader, but they're absolutely tied down to them, because otherwise if you're just a stray dog, you're going to get fucked up real bad. So very cool how Batman goes in undercover like that, and then throughout the story of the game, you're basically going around to these different, gang leaders, and you're fighting off their goons and all that. And then, since we're going into spoilers, it eventually gets around to where you're eventually battling the League of Shadows, and both Talia and Ra's al Ghul. Ra's ends up being the main villain, I would say, of this game.
Yeah,
so,
they lead on as if it's going to be Hugo Strange.
Well, they lead on as if it's going to be the Joker. Hugo Strange was the first one. That was Arkham Asylum. Actually, it's funny because they lead on like Hugo Strange is no, they do, because Hugo Strange is the one that wants to build this Arkham City. Wants to wall off this part of Old Gotham. So you did have that right. That's my bad.
So. Okay.
But basically, it does end up the Joker's obviously a huge part of this. He's dying. He has to get this, this medicine so that he'll he's essentially like deteriorating, because if you remember at the end of Arkham Asylum, he takes this, he essentially takes the Bane serum and gets all jacked up, and you fight this giant Joker thing. And so he's essentially dying from that in the second game, which is a very cool way to carry that over. And then I guess he's trying to get to the Lazarus Pit, right? And that's where Ra's al Ghul comes in, because Ra's is the one in control of the Lazarus Pit, which has been keeping him alive throughout the ages. And so eventually we get down to the end. There's just, the scene between Batman and Joker when he's trying to get some of that serum and he's trying to save his life. And I can't remember exactly what happens, but it's like Batman's about to try to save him, and then something happens. I think the Joker might knock it out of his hand and break the vial or something like that. But it's like really heartbreaking the way that it all goes down. And so then they have this gorgeous scene where Batman carries the Joker's deteriorating body. It's disgusting by this point in the game. And he carries him out slowly and walks him out to, the police outside of the building that they were in. And then that even leads on into Arkham Knight, which wasn't supposed to have the Joker, and they kept saying it's not going to have the Joker, he's dead. But then, of course, he pops up in one of the first scenes because of the fact that he's inhabited Batman's mind as this sort of vision that he's seeing, and it's Mark Hamill's voice and all that. He's still talking to him, so very cool how they carry the Joker throughout that series. And that was very long-winded, sorry, but that's kind of gives you a general scoop on the story, which is awesome in this game and throughout the Arkham series.
Yeah, no, you were right. I'm remembering that as well. That you are actually about to save the Joker.
Yeah.
And give him that antidote, but he does come at you, and then you drop it and it shatters.
Because he's being an asshole coming at you. He's like, "I'll kill you," and It's like, dude, I was trying to help you, and you just fucked yourself over.
But yeah, that moment though, you're right. Now that you said it, I'm remembering it really vividly of when he's
it's
carrying
beautiful.
Joker's body out.
It is beautiful.
Yeah. And then you mentioned Mark Hamill. That's something I can't believe it's taken this long to come up. We do get Mark Hamill as the Joker and Kevin Conroy as Batman, and they both do phenomenal jobs, I think.
Absolutely.
It's tough to hear, especially in a non-live action medium, anyone else besides Mark Hamill as the Joker. Right?
Yeah.
Well, Troy Baker did a great job in Origins. It's Mark Hamill, right?
Yep.
He's the Joker.
He is. He's the best Joker.
And we can get into a whole other thing about Heath Ledger. Obviously, he did great, but Mark Hamill, his voice, I think to most of us, that's the Joker.
Oh yeah.
He's solidified that voice as being the Joker.
Absolutely.
I won't go too far into it.
But I think that's a good point to bring up, because this is a weird continuation of the Batman the Animated Series, because you have a lot of the same voices. They even had the original Harley Quinn in the first game, and then they brought in Tara Strong, who's been voicing her basically since then and up until this point even. And then you've got Paul Dini writing the story, which is really cool, because he wrote most of, if not maybe not most of, but he wrote plenty of the Batman the Animated Series episodes, so very cool there. Also, one thing, I know we talked about this, you didn't play, but I want to give a shout out to the DLC. Basically, you're playing as Robin, and you're infiltrating Harley's little gang that she has, since the Joker's dead, obviously. And then really cool little bits of story there, and then cool that you get to play as Robin instead of Batman, which it's actually voiced by Troy Baker. He's voiced he's voiced Two-Face, Robin, and the Joker in the Arkham series, I know, and he might even have a couple more voices in there.
I think he did Batman in the Telltale series, I think.
Yeah, he's Batman in the Telltale series. He's the Joker in some of the animated movies, so he's all up in the Batmans. And also, huge shout out to Nolan North doing a really cool Cockney accent that's almost unrecognizable as the Penguin. So
I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
wow.
And I think it's in Arkham City that Mr. Freeze's debut, and it might be in Asylum, but either way, it's the voice, I'm pretty sure, from the animated series. So a lot of those strings still tied over there.
So, last thing on some of the story stuff. The main story is great, like we just went into some detail about, but there's also, some might say they're a little tacked on, but you do get a lot of the other Batman villains as side
Riddler
quests.
trophies.
And of course, you got the Riddler trophies that you can spend a lot of time on. That was a little bit too much for me personally. I only did a handful of those trophies, but
right.
I mean, they're cool and they're there, and each one is its own puzzle, right? So
builds out the world nonetheless.
Right, and it's a little bit, more involving than just simple collectibles, right? So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they are little puzzles that I can respect and appreciate.
Right. You might call it Korok seeds of a sort.
Yeah.
That's neither.
A little more, I would say more complicated. Korok seeds are meant to be kind of a quick thing,
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, all in all, this is a fantastic game.
Absolutely.
I think for me, it's easily my favorite superhero game, but I've not played...
Infamous!
Right, I've not even played an Infamous game, but it's great, universally praised critically, so... There you have it, folks. That is our look back on Arkham City. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.